Before 16 season color analysis, I was somebody who hated shopping. I hated putting outfits together. I never quite knew exactly what looked best on me, and then even if I thought something looked good on me, by the time I tried to build an outfit with it, I realized that it didn't. I had my 16 season color analysis professionally done for me, and then after that, I knew that I had to learn how to do it myself and start offering it to other people because it is such an incredible game changer. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you guys how the 16 season color analysis system works, why you should have it done by a professional either in person or virtually, and I'm going to show you guys some examples of each of the palettes and flow palettes. Color analysis goes so much further than just showing you clothes that you're gonna look good in and colors that you should be shopping for. It can even tell you what types of jewelry you're gonna look best in. You can also use your best colors to choose your nail polishes, your lipsticks, all of your color makeup products, and even inform your hair dye. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. I have a graphic that I have designed that I'm gonna throw up on the screen here from time to time to help you keep up with everything that I'm saying, because I find that the visual really helps. But the first step in the 16 season color analysis system, probably in most color analysis systems, is to determine whether you have a cool undertone or a warm one. And these are flags from the warm palette and the cool palette respectively. And I also have some undertone indicator drapes that I use to check things like your eyes, your skin, your hair, even things like your lips and teeth and the whites of your eyes. All of those things can help me to determine if you have a cool undertone or a warm one. Once we know what your undertone is, we're going to try to figure out your home season. So the cool seasons are going to be winter and summer, and the warm seasons will be spring and autumn. And the way that we do that is we use the drapes again, and we will determine whether you have the color dimensions that coincide best with winter colors or color dimensions that go best with summer colors. As you can see, both of these are very cool colors, but the other dimensions that come into play that we're gonna be looking at here are intensity and value. So intensity is gonna be referring to how bright or soft a color is. A bright color is gonna have absolutely no gray added to it. So if you take the original hue and you've added no gray to it, you're gonna keep it very bright, very saturated, very intense. Those are going to be winter colors. Whereas if you take a color and you soften it, you add a lot of gray to those colors, you're gonna wind up in summer. You can see a lot of these have way more gray, they're much softer, they are not as bright and intense as the winter colors. And the third color dimension we look at is value. And value is referring to how light or dark a color is. Between these two, summer is going to be the lighter season, but it's a little bit tricky to spot from time to time. Summer's colors are going to be light to medium in value, because you do have some medium depth blues and purples here that they're not as light as, say, a pastel, but they're also not as dark as the blues and purples that we see in winter. So generally speaking, we associate summer as the light, cool season and winter as the dark, cool season. But there is a bit of a misnomer going on there with winter, because winter's colors, whereas summers have all had gray added to them and made them very soft. Winter's colors all have either black added to them, making them deep, or in some cases, white has been added to make the colors very, very light and icy. If, on the other hand, we've discovered that you have a warm undertone, you are either going to be a spring or an autumn home season. On the warm side of the spectrum, autumn's colors are the ones that are very deep and soft. And yes, there are some medium to light intensity colors in here, but very much the way that we associate winter as the cool, deep season, we associate autumn as the warm, deep season. Whereas spring is going to be very light and very bright. So like winter, spring has no gray added to any of their colors. They're all very, very bright colors. And unlike autumn, they're also very light. Now is the part where the 16 season color analysis system gets really interesting, because we're going to start talking about the flow palettes. So the flow palettes are the palettes that are shared between the home seasons. So if we look at the graphic here, we see that each of the home seasons is made up of a pretty well balanced combination of 3 different color dimensions: undertone, intensity, and value. But it's often rare that someone is going to be in the exact center with all 3 of those dimensions in perfectly equal balance. So if we see them in mostly equal balance or pretty well balanced out, we will say that that person is a true spring or a true winter or what have you. They don't leave the home season, their best colors are the colors of the home season. But sometimes what happens, and I will use spring as an example because I am a true spring, spring's color dimensions are its lightness, its brightness, and its warmth. So if we have those dimensions in balance, we're gonna be hanging out in the true spring palette. It's very light, it's very warm, and it's very bright. But let's say spring is just a little bit too bright. You still need the warmth, right? And you still need its lightness for the most part. But say you need just a kiss of autumn's depth and softness. That would move you into the flow palette that is the warm palette. And you can see the colors of the warm palette. They're definitely brighter and lighter than autumn, but they're definitely softer and darker than true spring. So if you need a hint of these colors, and it may be that spring is your home season, but these are your best colors, we would say that you are a warm spring, meaning that your best colors are from the warm palette, which is a flow palette between spring and autumn. Now, if we look at spring's other flow possibilities, we have the light flow palette and the bright flow palette. So let's look at the light palette for a second. The light palette is what sits between spring and summer, and the predominant color dimension in that palette is its lightness. Since it sits between spring and summer, it's a neutral undertone. It is neither cool nor warm. So if you're a home season of spring, but say these colors are a little bit too warm for you, but their lightness is okay, we need a little bit of help from summer to cool them down. And that would land you in the light palette. And you can see these colors are cooler than spring's, but warmer than summer's because they're a flow. They're in between the two. And spring's final flow possibility is going to be the bright palette. And this one's relatively rare, but that's the palette that sits between spring and winter, which is our other bright season. So like the light palette, it's neutral because it sits between warm spring and cool winter, but its predominant chromatic feature is the brightness of its colors. So that means that all of spring's brightness works really well on you, but maybe you still need a little bit of coolness. So whereas the light palette is going to kind of tone you down a little bit since it's shared with summer, we are looking at all the bright colors here. We've got spring, we've got winter, but this is too warm and this is too cool. Your Goldilocks is gonna be the bright palette, which here you can see these colors are a bit warmer than true winters, but they're definitely a bit cooler than true springs. So these are going to be your best colors. And the same pattern holds true for all of the flow palettes and where they sit between the seasons. And the way we figure out which ones work best is once we've identified your home season, we will compare the true season's colors versus each of its flows and see if one of the flows looks a little bit better on you than the true season's colors do. So why is it best to have this done by a professional, either in person or virtually? The reason for that is, first of all, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet about how to identify your season or even just identify your undertone. For example, it is a complete and total myth that the color of your veins have anything to do with your undertone. And the color drapes that we use when we're determining undertone are specifically designed to draw that out of your features. When you're using something like ChatGPT, it's getting really inconsistent, right? They tell you to pixelate your face and then use the eyedropper tool and pick something that seems like the closest match to your overall skin. That is really looking at something in isolation, in a vacuum. It really takes looking at the big picture, taking it all into consideration to really hone in on whether you are a warm or cool undertone or if you fall somewhere in the neutral zone. All of my clients have left telling me that without the drapes, they never would have guessed what their season is. But by the time their session is over, we are in full agreement about what their season is. I have even shared some videos and still images on my YouTube shorts showing the way that I used to dress, the way that I used to dye my hair, the colors that I used to wear versus what I wear now, knowing that I'm a true spring. And just for the record, I am in white today because I'm at the studio with clients and I always wear white when I'm working with clients to avoid any kind of color interference. But white is not in my color palette as a true spring. So if you have additional questions for clarification, or you'd like to see more color examples, color palette walkthroughs, talkthroughs, etc., or if you'd just like to book a session with me either in person or virtually, I will include those links for you down in the description box below. But I hope that the information in this video helped you guys out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.